Vukile recently announced that we have increased our stake in Synergy Income Fund from 34% to 40%, and in doing so have triggered a mandatory offer to Synergy B and Synergy A unit holders. And that offer is in the ratio of 2.67 on the Synergy Bs and 1.65 on the Synergy As. I'd like to spend a few moments just discussing why we think the deal makes sense from the perspective of both a Vukile shareholder and, as we see it, from the perspective of a Synergy shareholder in terms of why we would recommend that they accept the offer. From a Vukile perspective, Synergy is very synergistic with Vukile. Their low-income retail portfolio fits very well within the Vukile framework. We already have 5.7 billion exposure to that sector. If one adds in Synergy's 2.4 billion, we get up to about 8.1 billion of low-income focused retail assets. We have a team that is very experienced in being able to manage in that sector, long track record, and the capacity to absorb the 15 assets with no additional costs. And therefore that brings a potential cost saving into it in terms of the Synergy earnings. Vukile also has a much stronger balance sheet than Synergy. Synergy has currently got a gearing ratio of around 37%, of which they're only 51% hedged. Vukile, on the other hand, has got a gearing ratio of 23.6%, which is almost 90% hedged. Now, if you're a Synergy shareholder today, you're exposed to quite a lot of interest rate risk, both in terms of the quantum of debt as well as interest rate rises because the base rate is not fixed. That can be cured within Vukile because Vukile has got low gearing and the ability to issue more shares to close the transaction. Therefore, we can take on the 950 odd million of debt in Synergy and still stay below our target gearing ratio of 30%. Synergy also suffers from a lack of liquidity and also the ability to do deals. They don't have shares under control in order to make acquisitions. And even if they did, they have a very disadvantageous cost of capital. So from our perspective, Synergy is starting to resemble a closed-end fund and has got very limited growth prospects. Now, what we are therefore offering Synergy unit holders is the ability to switch into Vukile at the predetermined swap ratio. And that will give the Synergy unit holders access to a higher growth vehicle, far more liquid, bigger scale, bigger diversification, and we feel that their investment interests will be best suited by switching into Vukile than staying in Synergy, given the lack of prospects within Synergy. If one looks at the pricing on the Synergy units based on the swap ratio, we think that it's definitely fair and reasonable when compared to the peer group of Synergy A units trading on a forward clean yield of around 8.9 versus 9.2 for its peer group, and on the B units, the Synergy Bs on a forward yield of 9.5 versus a peer group of around 9.9. So we're of the view that the offer being put forward is both fair and reasonable. Once Vukile is able to then hopefully acquire control of the assets, we think there are further upside benefits that a Vukile unit holder will be able to tap into. And bearing in mind that then there's a Synergy unit holder today who switches into Vukile. There is a cost of funding benefit. We estimate that we've got about a 50 basis point advantage relative to Synergy in terms of the margin we pay for our funding, as well as being able to, in time, collapse the corporate cost structure of Synergy if we were able to get 100% control, where one would be able to delist the fund, as well as then there are no more board fees, listing fees, etc. And those benefits would also accrue to Vukile unit holders then in due course. So when we look at it all together, we think there is a very strong and compelling investment case as to why Vukile should be buying Synergy. They are synergistic assets, fit well with our portfolio, and it's an earnings enhancing deal. And at the same time, very compelling reasons why a Synergy shareholder would get benefits out of it, because it really significantly de-risks a very risky investment exposed to interest rates and potentially with quite low growth prospects going forward. So we feel on the whole there are significant benefits for Synergy unit holders to switch into Vukile based on the offer that is being put forward.